enjoy these readings. I made a reservation at the Sheridan Library about 2 months ago, before Christmas I think it was.
Are you ready?
And I walked into the gift shop there and mentioned there that I was going to be at the Sheridan Library, and then I went down to the Shovel and Spoon because I know Janet, I don't remember her last name, I know her, and I saw her there and mentioned it. I get to the library and there's a couple, the woman I talked to at the gift shop and her husband and the librarian.
Oh.
It's one of the things about these events. Very few people show up. Very few. I think they're spending too much time, like I do, on their devices, getting their entertainment that way.
Sign of the times, huh?
Yeah. And I'm Lee, by the way.
Mike.
Mike. Glad to meet you, Mike. And I forgot your name.
Mary.
Mary. And they're going to film me, so I'm kind of waiting here. We ready to go?
Yep.
All right.
Did you set those up?
Do you want me to do, should I do an introduction?
If you want to,
Yeah,
go right
that's a
ahead.
good idea.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I can introduce myself.
While she's doing the introduction.
Okay.
Go right up to the podium.
Go right, all right. I should be wearing a tiara. Okay. Oh, 2 pair of glasses. Are we?
We're good to go.
Oh, okay. Hi, this is Debbie from the Bookstore in Dillon, Montana, and I hope there are many of you out there enjoying this snowy weather. Today we're really excited to have a poet that's going to be reading from his collection, Have. And Lee grew up on a Montana ranch, and a lot of his poems are taken from those experiences, and it is my pleasure to welcome Lee Robison from McAllister, Montana. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Debbie showed you my book. You notice this is a little bit tattered. When I ordered my books from my publisher that I could sell, I ordered 125 books. And I got 124 really nice books like this one. And this book that had been miscut. Well, I call that my lucky book because in many traditions, a flaw in something indicates the perfection of the rest of the item or whatever. So I'm using this book to read from, but I'm also, if I happen to sign somebody's book, I will ask them to sign this. And I'm having great experiences with that. A friend I grew up with saw me in a booth where I was selling the book, and she came up to me and said she wanted one for her granddaughter who was with her. And so I have Alice's signature here. It's been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure that has enhanced my having to drive 98 miles to a bookstore to do a reading. Something I enjoy doing, by the way. Kathy, my wife, has requested something I haven't read for a long time, so I'm going to read it today. And of course, I've forgotten where it was. I've got so many marks, it's hard to find. It's before that one. One of the things that I've explored in my writing, especially in my poetry, is my father, who was, to me, who was legendary. He was a very distant person with his children, especially the men. You never hugged. He never knew what a hug was until we grew up and decided that's what we had to do. He was a cowboy. I made many, many friends in the Madison Valley, knew a lot of people throughout this area. And one of the first poems I wrote was this one about him, Hunter's Visitation. And it's based on a true story he told me. Yeah.
My hearing aid just went out. I'm
Oh.
gonna buy one of your books, but I'll have to read with you.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, what page is that on?
939. He told me a story one time shortly after my grandmother died, his mother. He said he was in the mountains and she appeared to him. He was hungry, he didn't have enough food. That's what the poem is about, and she appeared to him. And I spent a long time letting that mull through my head and finally wrote this poem, Hunter's Visitation, Max. Most of my life, I believe what these eyes see, these hands can touch. That seeing and touching, being touched, ends when they nail the coffin lid on. But my mother, your grandma, had the last word on this creed the fall after she died, when I saw her one last time. I'd started late, ridden slow, dawdling, thinking, if at all, of her and the frontier between those who love that you're always crossing, never conquering, and that darkens and closes suddenly and irrevocably when one of you goes. When you're like that in the winter mountains, night slips down sly, a panther's shadow. First a hint of something dark in shadows, then it's on you quick, blank cold. So it was full brittle winter night when I reached camp and learned a visitor had been to dine and left a mess for thank you. Bare by all sign, leveled, tent shredded, white mounds in snow, my late night breakfast gone to a gamelier pouch than mine, gone. And suddenly it was dark with a dark you could almost touch. I salvaged what I could by touch in dark, tended tarp scraps and tatters over my rope, tree to tree, swept a floor with mittened hand down to ground. The fire shook shadowy fringes in the dark. Wind has a sound in winter mountains, a mournful, hymn-like thrum that tells you nothing's there in ways that shape what might be. I couldn't sleep. It wasn't. Started thinking how iffy the drift is between wake and sleep, quick and not, just a slip. Like a fish you've touched, nearly landed, your hand numb in water, almost feeling. Then it's gone, a shimmer in water shadows. Then she was there, Jenny, your grandma, mother, the way I knew her before the war, not young, like her picture there, but in her prime, the way you always know your mother. She was there, like your hand is there on the table, and she spoke to me, why don't you have more faith, son? Where's your faith? She said my name in her gentle voice. That's all she said. I don't know what I answered. I said something. Don't remember sleeping. It wasn't sleep. Sleep I would know. But I was sitting there with the air of something I'd been saying lingering in the frost of my breath. I'll stop with that because it's all I know. Besides, your smirk tells me you wonder if your dad is touched. If I believe she breached the grave to caress once more the cool as stone, the rasp of this old beard. Of course not. No more than I fingered that bear that welfared on my supper in the mountains. But both were real as the shadow of your thumb, there where you rub it on your coffee cup. And since my wife is here, I have to read. I tease her because I sometimes, very seldom, but sometimes write a Valentine's Day poem, and this is one of my favorites.
Good.
I'm trying to find it. It's 18. 1-8. Contemplating blue. As I watch today's changing sky, I am surprised to understand how little it reminds me of your eyes. If you expect more of me or this poem, perhaps that I should see in that blue and changeling gray some vast reflection of steady you, or that this poem should tell how love finds memory in whimsical clouds and the capricious emptiness beyond the sun, then forgive me my prosy view. It cannot be helped, but consider this. What is there in empty air, and what shade of vapor may I hold when I am here and you are there? My brother owns a family ranch, and about 3 years ago he asked me to go over and pick up meat. He had a beef slaughtered at Dell. He wanted me to go pick it up in my pickup. So I prepared myself, and I go over there, and I show up, and the guy says, "Well, we haven't got it all frozen yet. We need to, I think if you're going to haul it in that pickup, back of the pickup, we better have it frozen better." So I said, "That's okay. I want to go I'll have some lunch." And as I was driving in, I noticed that there was this cafe, the Schoolhouse Cafe, I think it's called. And I wrote this naughty poem about it. That lunch at the Schoolhouse Cafe. Oh, I'm sorry, 75. Among the wayfare off the interstate are children out of school, vacation worn. They may be due more than crayons to scrawl ageless ennui in the wait for, but not here. It seems the regular crowd who sip the coffee and gossip these old wives' compound is their model. Here first grade through supper, hagged then ambered with the alphabet that scrolls the room leftovers, remains long after the meat wagon at the back door trundles off with its burden. How much time have I got to do this?
I think you have a few more
A few
minutes.
more. One of the pleasures of being on the road with this book, with anything, is that you get to meet people and talk to them. And I was at the Whitehall Bazaar for Christmas. I don't know what they call it. I think it's the street walk or something. And they set up one of the halls at the town hall there with booths. And I